Hey everybody, and welcome back to Midnite Spookshow. If this is your first time here, hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Jody, and tonight I'm actually going to be sharing a, excuse my dog, paranormal experience with you. At least I think it's paranormal, but I kind of want to get your input on this as well. Originally, this was supposed to be a fireside hangout, so that can't happen because it's currently storming, which is even better to tell a creepy story. You might hear thunder going on in the background. You might hear my dogs. Please just ignore both. So I have some candles set up in front of me and behind me. You'll probably see those ones are fake. The ones in front of me are real though. Because I kind of wanted to set the atmosphere for this video. It's going to be more of like a laid back, just pouring my heart out type video. My raw emotional experiences. This is actually something that I've been thinking about making. I've been a little reluctant about it, but I had something happen to me last night that reminded me of this situation. And I've been going back and forth about it all day on whether or not I wanted to make this video, because in the back of my mind I'm secretly afraid that this thing might come back. But I know a little bit more on how to handle that stuff now, so I think we're gonna be okay. This experience sort of ties in with my very first paranormal experience, so I would highly suggest that if you haven't watched that video yet, please do so. Because then this video will make a lot more sense to you. There are a few instances that I also was able to find where people had similar experiences. So I'm extremely curious to see if any of you have had something similar happen to you. But I'm just going to title this The Sleep Watcher or The Night Watcher, and it's all going to make sense here in a few minutes. The best way for me to explain this to you is by showing you a little diagram, and this will make things a lot more clear in your mind. I like to visualize stuff whenever people are telling me a story, and I wanted to do that for you guys. So this experience happened whenever we moved into the second house I ever lived in. I was 4 years old at the time because my brother had just been born. And this continued pretty often until we moved out of the house when I was just about 9, not quite yet. So this went on for 5 years. In this house, we were renting from a landlord. It was a 2-story house, and we had a basement and an attic. And the floor that I'm going to be talking to you about is where my bedroom was, so you would walk upstairs. So here's my little diagram. I hope to God whenever we watch this, all my writing is the right way. So way down here, normally this is like where our foyer would be, and then you would like walk up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs was a bathroom. And the best way that I can explain this to you is that the reason why this little blocky thingy here is because these are 2 separate staircases. Like, these were the ones to go upstairs, and then these were the ones that would take you up into the attic. So when you would walk up the stairs onto the second floor where all the bedrooms and stuff were, you would come up to the bathroom. On either side of the bathroom, there were 3 little steps that you would walk up into either my bedroom or my brother's bedroom. And the whole floor plan was open. I know I have like a little door where it would swing, but there was no door on my door frame. It was just an open door frame. And then you would walk out of my room, and that's where my mom and dad's bed was and all their dressers. Like, this was all open. There was a little hallway that you would come down here, and then there was a little door, and you could go up to the attic, which those are these stairs. You would go straight up to the attic, and then if you just passed that door and just kept going through this hallway, you would have been in my brother's room. And then you could just circle back around. So It was like one big open circle plan. So I hope this makes sense to you. I just wanted to explain because you might understand once I'm telling you my story. So you're probably familiar with this horned figure that I talked about in my first video. And the reason why that is important is because this same entity, I still don't know what this thing is, continued to follow me, not just from that house, but to my second childhood home and then on to my third. So this thing has been with me since I was 2 years old. And I really don't know what its intent was. It always seemed like it wanted to either harm me in some sort of way. Mentally, it was more like it played mind games with me. It never really harmed me in any sort of physical way. It just was extremely intimidating and scary as shit, especially for a young child. So I'll just start the story off by saying when I was 4 years old, we moved into our new house. We had to move closer to where my mom worked. And around the same time, she was pregnant with my brother. So she had my baby brother. I was 4 years old and he was born, and we moved into this new house and everything was going really well. However, when I went to bed, it was a completely different story. I don't really remember how it all started. I just remember one night my mom and dad, they tucked me into bed and they went and they were laying down in their bed and my baby brother was sleeping in his crib. And as I'm laying in bed trying to fall asleep, I hear somebody walking up the stairs from down in the foyer. They walked the whole way up to the steps, turned, and then walked up the 3 steps to come to my room, but I didn't see anybody or hear anything else after that. So I was kind of sitting there and, you know, was just staring out my door because the way that my bed was placed, I could just look straight out the door and see if anybody was standing at the top of the stairs, and there was nobody there. So I would hear these footsteps, and then moments later, I saw this figure just emerging from the dark, and it was darker than that dark, just like a black shadow, coming up out of the staircase and just standing in my doorway. And I could see the silhouette of him, and it was the same thing. It had these horns. It had this defined, like, muscular build is the only thing that I can say, and it had these wicked long fingernails. And he would stand in my door and just watch and stare at me. He would almost like lean against the door frame with his arms crossed like this. So of course, me being scared shitless, like, I just got the feeling off of this thing that if I said anything that it was gonna hurt me. So I would just hurry up and like tuck myself in underneath my blankets and try to go to sleep and pretend like it wasn't there. So I'm 4 years old. I just didn't know what to think of this thing. So that happened for probably, I don't know, I want to say a month or two, where he would just come and walk up the stairs and just watch me. He would watch me sleep. Because there's times that I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would open up my eyes and he was still standing in my doorway in the exact same position. So I, in my mind, would call him like the sleep watcher or the night stalker. So even though this went on for a little while, I think I finally said something to my mom and dad, like, there's something weird going on. There's, you know, who's the man that's coming up the stairs and watching me? Like, he's telling me things, but like I feel like he's gonna hurt me, or he's scary. Like, who's the scary man? And my mom and dad were just kind of like, I don't really know what she's talking about. You know, if there was somebody that was coming up the stairs and standing at her doorway, they would have been able to see it too because of how open the plan was. You very easily could have seen somebody, like, or at least the shadow of somebody standing at my doorway. So they sort of like just brushed it off and they're like, oh, there's no monsters, there's no boogeyman, blah, blah, blah. Like, this was the boogeyman to me. So after a few months of him just watching me sleep, and the scariest part for me is, like, I would be sleeping, I know I would fall asleep and I would wake up and he would still be standing in my doorway, same position, leaning against my door frame with his arm crossed. It started to get worse and worse as it would go on. So there was one night where I went into bed. I would get really scared. I didn't want to sleep in my bed anymore. I know there's a lot of times that I would just ask my mom and dad if I could sleep with them. Even whenever that would happen, he would still show up and he would just stand at the corner of their bed and watch us all sleep. I don't know. But this happened for a while. I can't give you an exact time period, but he eventually progressed from just sitting there watching me sleep to telling me that if I didn't go to sleep and if I wasn't a good girl, that I was going to be punished and I was going to go to hell. I just had this real fear that, like, I was going to go to hell because I wasn't being a good girl or I wasn't sleeping, and this thing was going to take me there. I don't know if this thing would communicate with me via, like, telepathically, or if it would actually talk to me. I can't remember. I just know that I was communicating with this thing and it wanted to do harm to me. Or at least it always threatened that it would harm me if I wasn't going to be a good girl. And I wasn't a bad kid in any sort of way. Like, I would play with my toys all by myself, and, you know, my brother was really little at the time, so I often had to rely on just keeping myself preoccupied, and we didn't live in a neighborhood or anything like that, so, you know, I would do my own thing in my room, and, like, there's random times even during the day where I could feel his presence there, and he would just, like, watch me, but in the most creepy way possible. So needless to say, I easily was very afraid to go to bed, and I tried explaining it to my mom and dad and just saying, like, this guy, he keeps showing up, I don't know what to do, he's really scary, he's gonna take me to hell. And they were just like, don't worry, you're not going to hell. Like, they tried explaining to me, like, again, everything's okay, like, nobody's there. If somebody was there, we would be able to see this person. So it actually went away for a while. I would probably say an entire year this thing was gone. And then one night I'm sleeping in my bed and I woke up because I felt somebody sitting on the end of at the time I had like a day bed. I felt the pressure of somebody sitting there, and it woke me up because they sat on, like, my ankle, and I had to move my ankle so that they wouldn't continue putting pressure on my legs. When I opened my eyes, it was this figure sitting there, staring and watching me sleep. And I just remember looking into this thing's eyes and being absolutely terrified. Like, I felt in that moment that it was trying to scare the shit out of me. It was trying to intimidate me. It made me feel like it just wanted to hurt me. And I couldn't explain it. I couldn't, you know, after this would happen so many times, I almost in a way like got used to seeing him there. It was never any less terrifying to me, but I knew, like, he would tell me that he was gonna hurt me, but he never did anything to hurt me. So I don't know what this thing was, but I know that there'd be times too when I would wake up in the middle of the night and he would be sitting in other places in my room just watching me, which terrified the hell out of me. But I just didn't know what to do about it, because no matter who I told or no matter what I said, nobody really wanted to believe me that he was there. we eventually ended up moving out of that house and into our next house, and it only happened there once and it was gone. So I don't know what this is. The only thing that I could say is that he used to watch over me ever since I was 2 years old, and I still to this day don't know what its intentions were, other than to scare the absolute shit out of me and make me terrified to go to bed. So this figure was sort of in a way like my own personal boogeyman. It has definitely affected my life. It has made me terrified of sleeping. Even now in my adult life, plus a few other paranormal experiences that I've had, I can no longer sleep with my bedroom door all the way open, because I'm afraid whenever I wake up that I'm going to see this figure standing in the room or standing in my doorway with its arms crossed, waiting to tell me that if I'm going to be bad, then I'm going to go to hell. And it's sort of in a way like made it paved the way for all the other paranormal experiences that I've had in my life. Okay, sorry. I had a lot of stuff going on at once. My memory card was full, my battery died, and Joey came home. So I'm gonna get this finished. The one thing I did want to mention is the only time that I would see this thing is whenever I would sleep in my own house, whether it be the original house or the next one that we moved into. I never saw it when I would sleep over anybody's house, and I would never see it if somebody else was sleeping over my house. It was just the nights that I was alone in my bed. The one thing that I can say for sure though is like I never got the chance to see this thing's face. It didn't want me to see its face. It was more like it wanted me to know that it was there, but it didn't want me to know who it was. So I'm very curious to see if any of you have had similar experiences. I know there's a lot of people out there who have seen shadow people. I don't know if this is sort of the same thing, considering this thing never really let me see its face in detail. He was sort of like a shadow person because I would just see like his silhouette, but yeah, there are other instances where I found people who felt like this watcher thingy was comforting to them, or possibly like a spirit guide or a past loved one, something like that, that would keep them safe at night to let them know that they were protected while they were sleeping. Not normally a negative experience like what I had. So if you guys have had any sort of experience like this, I would love to hear about it, or just hear your opinion on what I've experienced myself. The one thing that I could say though is like I'm not sure at what point in my life, or if there was any sort of specific event that I can talk to that made this thing stop. It just felt like it no longer needed to be part of my life anymore, which I'm really glad, because it was fucking terrifying having this thing watch me. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great night. Sorry, Joey's dancing in the background and making obscene gestures. It is obscene. Go ahead, you want to show them what you're doing?
You show them what I'm doing.
They can't see that far down. I hope you guys have a fantastical night, and I'm sorry if you're watching this before you're going to bed and having nightmares. You've been warned. It was a paranormal video. I have a lot more paranormal videos that I have planned from all different times in my life. So I appreciate you guys being here, and if you haven't already, subscribed if you've liked what you've seen. Give this video a thumbs up, and I always put all my social media links in my description box. So if you ever need to get a hold of me for any sort of reason, just reach out to me in any of those avenues or comment below. Alright, I hope you guys have a great night and sleep tight, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Salisbury steak.
Salisbury steak.